Ah, is this sweet? I can't tell.
Keith,
Yo,
did you expect a new album from Avenged Sevenfold anytime this year?
I mean December, but no.
How about today?
Not today, but
Avenged Sevenfold put out their new album, The Stage, kind of randomly.
just kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, they've had some weird-ass promotion going on in other ways. They did release the title track ahead of time, but there it is. It's out. It's out and about. It's their 7th studio album. Fall to Hail to the King. Do, 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 do. Hail to the Key.
Oh, yeah.
Hail to the One. Lay on the couch. Lay and jerk off.
I remember getting that text. I was like, what? What the fuck?
I don't know. Yeah. It's here. It's a long album. 73 minutes in length. It's a long album. What do you think of it?
I'm gonna start off this. It's a good album. I don't dislike this album, and it's because like there are some good songs. Like The Stage, I do like as a song, and a couple other songs, but I'll get to those after a bit. But and it's what I'll spend the most time talking about. So it's gonna make it seem like it's a big complaint, but it's not really. It's this album. I feel like this album doesn't know what it wants to be at times. It's kind of a nice album to encapsulate. I think that's a word, but I'm using it as a word.
That is a word.
Cool, thank you.
It is a word.
As a word? All right,
to
cool.
reiterate what two other people said, it is a word.
All right. Everything that this band's done, kind of just to kind of get it through the, in a way that they haven't done too much, because there's like a little bit of everything. Because The Stage is very much has old school vibes, whereas I feel like other songs kind of like Goddamn kind of sounds like something from their last album.
Gosh darn.
Gosh darn, sorry. And that's just like, and that's my main criticism of the whole album is like, at times it gets weird. Like the last track, Exist, it kind of starts off and it's like this really cool, like almost old school, almost thrashy riff in a way, like just the way it's kind of just all palm mutes, and then it goes on for a couple minutes, and then it kind of becomes mellow again, and it's this weird thing. There's a lot of that on this album actually too. There's a lot of just really mellow, like acoustic-y parts. I felt maybe it was just because that's what I latched onto and what I noticed the most, but like I just noticed there was a lot of that, which is fine. It's just that like, yeah, it encapsulates everything that they're trying to do. Like songs like Paradigm was a pretty cool song. The song I probably liked the most besides The Stage is Angels, just because that was a cool ballad. And then Fermi Paradox was a pretty cool song. Like these songs are kind of like, some of these songs are pretty long. Like The Stage is like 8.5 minutes. Exist was like 15.5 minutes, and like the last 2 minutes didn't have like Neil deGrasse Tyson in it, like doing like narration about the universe or going to space, and it's like, all right, but like nothing sounds bad. I'd say maybe again the usual complaint with these kind of bands is that like at times it feels like the guitars are a little pulled back a little bit more, lack of a better term, radio friendly. Like there could be a lot more heaviness, I feel, to a lot of the songs on this album. But I mean the songwriting's okay. Sinister Gates, you hear a lot of his solos in here, and he's a great guitarist. I mean The Stage, he has a lot of good ones, and there's some cool stuff that happens in Exist, and all over the album. And M Shadows sounds, he sounds like M Shadows always has. He's not my favorite vocalist, but yeah, it's an interesting album. It's good, but interesting to say the least.
Fun fact. The Fermi paradox is the contradiction between the Drake equation and the lack of evidence for the Drake equation. Drake equation is the estimate or the probability of other life existing in the countless stars and galaxies and countless galaxies in the universe. There's probably life. The Fermi paradox is the contradiction that we haven't found anything yet. Fun fact of the day. Don't do drugs. Get burned, you learn.
Yeah. This album is a concept album. And concept albums can be interesting, but they can also... They're in my opinion, I know it's probably just a me thing, but they're very hit or miss. Because a lot of times with concept albums, they either focus too much of the story and forget about the music, you know, and that's kind of frustrating at times. Or this one, I feel like there is an interesting balance there for sure. Keith kind of said it best. I feel this album is interesting. You know, it will hold your attention for all 73 minutes, which is a good thing. I personally think The Stage is the best song on the album. That song is a great showcase for how good of a guitarist Sinister Gates is. And then I constantly am getting the chorus stuck in my head and the middle section as well. It's a great song, and it's interesting that, you know, that's the lead single, and it's 8.5 minutes. You know, usually you just don't see that a lot. At least with a modern, more radio-friendly band, you don't see that really at all. I mean, the only other band that's coming to my head immediately that puts out songs that long, they'll still get on the radio is Metallica.
Oh, yeah, because they'll play all... I mean, and then I guess the only other song I can think of is... Well, I mean, then there's, like, couple instances of bands doing that, like November Rain or Freebird.
Yeah, right.
But like the only band that consistently puts out like 6-7 minute songs is Metallica. Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. So I was very curious to hear the rest of this album. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I feel this album's almost, I'm not saying it full out, but it almost feels progressive at times, and that, you know, it just kind of, they're just kind of putting ideas together. And this album really does flow from one track to the next. You know, it definitely is a well put together concept album in that it just keeps going. And that's cool. And the pacing is pretty good. However, I feel some songs are just very fucking choppy. In that, you know, they'll have this slower section and then this fast chorus. I believe it's one of the songs towards the end. I believe maybe it's Simulation or Higher. It's like the chorus or the verse is like really slow, and then the chorus is really fast, and it's like sometimes that works. I just felt like it didn't really flow at times. The one song that I just can't stand, I don't know why, and don't get me wrong, it's a catchy song, but I cannot stand the song Goddamn. I listened to that song and I'm like, the chorus is excellent guitar-wise. I love what's going on guitar-wise in that entire song, and here's what I'm going to say is probably very controversial to Avenged Sevenfold fans, and they're going to dislike this video because that's the way you vote because you don't like what someone's opinion is. And they're going to comment real mad things, but M. Shadows is the weakest link in this band. He is so hit or miss in my opinion. Oh, yeah. You know, Avenged Sevenfold can have some rockin' fucking riffs, some great drumming, Sinister Gates ripping it on guitar, and then M. Shadows to me can just kind of maybe drag it down a bit. At times, he makes it better. I'm not saying he drags it down all the time. There are great Avenged Sevenfold songs where, you know, the highlight is M. Shadows. You know, one of my favorite Avenged Sevenfold songs is fucking Welcome to the Family. I love that chorus. I mean, I love, you know, the guitar and everything, but M. Shadow's vocal patterns and, you know, his tone throughout that chorus is amazing. a song that's grown on me recently is Shepherd of Fire during the verses. You know, his vocals during those verses are great. But there's times where I just feel he's not as strong, and sometimes the way he pronounces certain words just drives me up the fucking wall. And goddamn, it's just one of those where I'm like, I just feel it could have been better. I'm not saying he lacks talent, because he clearly does not. There's no one that sounds like him in rock music at all, or metal, or whatever you want to say this band really is, because they're kind of in the middle. He has incredible range to him at times. He can sound really good, but then sometimes I feel he can bring it down as well. But then there's songs on here where I was kind of like, whoa. Creating God is one of them. I like how he sounds in the chorus of that song, but the verses, I was like, am I listening to a fucking Alice in Chains song? There's a lot of vocal harmonies going on in there, and it was interesting, and I think he sounds good in Angels. He sounds great in the stage, and he's not always dragging it down, in my opinion.
A quick thought was just something that maybe just a thing that I know. I thought at times is weird, and it's kind of one of those things where it was like I mentioned when we talked about Green Day a couple weeks back. A couple times his voice reminded me a little bit of Chris Cornell.
A little bit
at times. And
yeah.
I just kind of hit me. I forget. I think it was during like Higher or some song like that. I was like, or no, it was earlier in the album. It probably was It was Creating God. Yeah, 'cause that's why the thought came up, and I was just like, that's all right. Yeah,
mm-hmm. But I gotta give Avenged Sevenfold props for this, is in that, in my opinion, this is the most diverse and interesting and just kind of weird Avenged Sevenfold album. They really did try to do some different type of sounds or different, ways to put songs together, and that's cool for a band as big as they are to just, try new things. Why not? Keep going. That's cool. But another thing though it'll happen, don't get me wrong, but this album doesn't stand out to me, besides maybe the stage of like, this song is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
In that, this is the next single they're going to put on the radio. It's going to happen, don't get me wrong. I mean, Angels is probably one they could throw on the radio and stuff like that. But nothing stands out like it did on Nightmare with Welcome to the Family, or So Far Away, or their last album with Hail to the King, Shepherd of Fire, This Means War, and even their self-titled City of Evil, because this album is just so, different.
Flowy.
Yeah. It does kind of, it flows well, and then when you rip one song out, it's like, I don't know if it would go as well. It is a interesting album, man. I'm not the biggest Avenged Sevenfold fan, but I do jam them from time to time. They are talented musicians, absolutely. They have...
You kind of can't deny that.
Yeah, they have written some really great material. I've never thought that one of their albums was just golden from start to finish, but they always try different things for the most part, and I feel this is the one that kind of pushes it. Is this my album of the year? No. Is this going to be in my top 20? I don't even know. But is this worth a listen? Sure.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Are you an huge Avenged Sevenfold fan? Are you going to enjoy this? I would think so. There's some cool stuff here. Yeah. I mean, I'll say one other thing about Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah, they're a good band. I agree with you. Crank this album up, and you will realize that if their sound, their guitar tones just had a little bit more ass in it, they would just sound so much better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I turn it up, I'm like, man, I wish, it does sound heavy, but it's like, man, just a little bit more, dude. And that, it would fucking really hit hard. But like Sinister Gates, his solos sound great. He's a great guitar player, and he has written one of my favorite guitar solos of all time in Hail to the King. I adore that solo, man.
Solo's really
That
good.
solo is so good, and this is. I mean, there's no different on here. I'd say there's maybe a little bit less solos than usual, in my opinion. But I went more for the songwriting. That's cool. Yeah. What would you give this album?
I'll give it a 7.5 right now. I want to give this album definitely more listens to, because it's, like I said, it's a very intriguing album to just kind of, and I feel like even with like the 3 or 4 times that I managed to listen to it today, like I feel like, you know, you just kind of have to. There's one again with most concept albums. I feel like you just kind of have to listen to it like in like 10 times in order to really grasp everything. So 7.5 for now. It might go up. It might. I mean, I don't see it going down, but I mean, it might go up.
Yeah, 7.5 for me. Yeah, check it out. Avenged Sevenfold with The Stage. Interesting to see how this album turns out too, sales wise. You know, with just being like, there it is. So it's an interesting move. Yeah, this is also on Capitol Records, which is their new home. So there you go. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.